Oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a hot minute, you know? There's really 3 easy ways to just soak up an entire month and a half of my life, and those are a pair of tits and Monster Hunter. So, it's been a bit, so before we get started, I don't know, how was your guys' April? Mine kinda sucked, but, how was yours?
Yes, although it won't be easy for me, young one.
I'm sorry I didn't catch that. Run that by me again?
Put down the flame. Bring peace to those who perished by bringing the horrors back before their eyes.
One more time?
It's nothing, young one. Don't bother. Just an old man's humor.
Hold on a second.
Hordes of beasts are coming! Leave everything and run! Save yourselves!
See, it doesn't hurt now.
Just an old man's humor.
Yep, there's always one that gets the fuck away. Showtime! The evolution of games and the birth of new genres has always been an interesting thing to follow. Let's go back to one of my favorite series, Gauntlet. One or a couple of picked men versus the endless hordes of horror in a long series of levels. Genre expands, we get into 3D, and then some other guy shows up and asks, but what if cool combat instead of isometric shooty? Enter Dynasty Warriors. Then enter a really bad Gauntlet game that may or may not have had something to do with John Romero's career kind of disappearing for a bit. Ask Sandy. Enter Midway ceasing to exist. Let in another decade with 3,000 Dynasty Warrior spin-offs running amok, and some dude gets really fucking bored one day and says, "Fuggy, let's go back to basics." Enter Vampire Survivors, a silly little indie title mixing classics like Castlevania with roguelike elements in a Gauntlet-style game where you do really nothing but walk around and try not to die while making large hordes turn into large numbers. A fine game, but aside from the lack of any real input outside of the randomly generated choices, I can't say I'm too fond of the Coco Melon Casino style of design the dev went with. I'm more of a Rogue Genesia kind of fellow. Speak a little softer, and put a bit more thought into how each run will go, but even that still had the issue of it being a bit more walk around, select option style of gameplay. My fat ass wants to press the buttons. I want to swing the sword and slaughter the horde, and who's that running down the hallways to pound my ass but none other than my weekend dom, Hyperstrange, with their new friend, Kwalee Gaming. New name to the series, but not a new name to the channel. Longest time viewers will remember the Coin Game, another title receiving help publishing from Kwalee. Anywho, you may or may not recall a year ago when a demo was released for the game and I asked the all-important question, is it Spawn Armageddon? Well, it's not! And 6 months or so later, on May 6th in the year of our darkest timeline 2025, Hyperstrange and Kwalee launched into early access their take on the darker-toned, softer-spoken, but action-packed hack-and-slash slaughterfest, Hordes of Hunger.
Okay, so I just want to take a minute to point out that the Hyperstrange logo is the blue dog with the yellow cape, and Miranda wears the blues outfit with the yellow scarf. This is a secret message telling you that Elderborn 2 is cancelled and Hyperstrange is now making Half-Life 3.
You take control of Myra, a lady with a big fucking sword on her chopping trip at the market. Quickly you're introduced to some very basic controls. Move, chop, heavy attack, special attack, dodge, and parry. Not a whole lot, and you're not getting combos. Hold the clutch on the lawnmower and decapitate the rebellious grass, but it does start us off with a problem. You have a dedicated dodge button and a dedicated parry button, but the parry button isn't default mapped to parry. It's mapped to parry, but if moving dodge. There is no reason for this to exist. There are no circumstances outside of making the option for the one person with only one hand and only two fingers on the hand to be able to play. Under no circumstances can I ever see why someone would want a dedicated button to do something else that you already have a dedicated button for, under the context that, well, you're moving, yo dare. I can understand it being an option, but the idea that the default control scheme leaves a dedicated option as context sensitive is just kind of baffling to me. So when starting the game, go into settings and make sure the parry button actually does what you want it to do when you want it to do, and just on the off chance that you do prefer the parry button to dodge when moving, let me know in the comments below, and we'll send an officer to your location so he can smack you upside the head with a tack hammer because you're a threat to yourself and others! Let's go ahead and start off with the aesthetic and the world design. First and foremost, the world is detailed, and I mean like, a lot that you wouldn't expect from a game with a camera that's pulled so far back. Game design tends to feature a lot of sleight of hand and smoke and mirrors, but one thing tends to become clear is that when you have more detail than you would otherwise expect, it's because the devs want you to take a closer look at it. Not just the crumbling and burning structures overtaken by the curse of meat, the fantastical designs and landmarks are actively commanding the player's attention to tell them the story. It wants you to look, and look I did. And I'm not exactly a smart boy, but I did pick up on some things. The story is light and fragmented right now, and we're not given the whole picture on what is happening or what is planned, but we do get some hints. Hints like Myra's right arm being infected by the black goo, her eyes moving around, and her having textures for teeth despite the fact that her mouth doesn't move when she speaks. None of these things you will ever see or notice unless you position her close to something the camera won't pass through and move the camera between it and her, but it gives hints that while there are no cutscenes or close-up dialogue or anything like that yet, there may be stuff coming down the line, but that's just me being a little snoopy boy. Anyway, what light story we get is told a bit through the environments. We start where the corruption has seemingly taken the greatest toll, but as we progress back to the proverbial beginning, we see there is less and less of the corruption, almost as if the source itself is protected, or if where it all began is where the corruption is trying to reach. One of the levels takes Myra back to a quaint little hamlet by the river, or sea, or what the fuck ever, and we quickly learn here that the corruption sprouted during a festival, possibly even a wedding, and with the ghost of her husband, most likely, Myra's wedding. Maybe, maybe not. However, in the 2 levels after this, said corruption begins to dramatically drop off, hinting that the slaughter that took place at that little shindig might have been where it first entered into the world, especially when added to the fact that it is where we first encounter the Amalgam, the first real beast leading them hungry boys. Shortly after that, you go home. Then your father asks you to take him and your mother to their home, and once there they ask you to escort them to a tree not entirely unlike the one Daddy is standing guard over on the other side of the chaos and this strange little graveyard. If you speak to him enough, he tells you that this tree itself is a bridge between the real and stepping sideways, and it's also at that tree in your old hometown that you learn some of the truth. Your brother was sacrificed to them hungry gods. He was sickly and weak, and everyone is hungry, and for some reason, it was his turn to die, I guess. But you're not really told for what or the manner of how it went about. Was he sacrificed to some pagan god and the betrayal of that event left a mark on the universe, spawning this nightmare? Or did you eat him and this is all in Myra's head and it's about trauma and shit?
I rule Wonderland alone.
Or did the sacrifice go all too horribly right and they were messing with things they couldn't possibly comprehend, and instead of a bountiful harvest they instead turned the boy into the new god of fear and hordes of hunger, and now he angry and hungry, ergo hangry? Is it somewhere between? Does Myra just need a Snickers? We don't get to know yet, but we get some nice storytelling and some very fun implications from what is available, and even dialogue that will show up in the subtitles that doesn't have voice acting tied to it yet, hinting at even worse information to come. Karim's drums got some shit to tell already, and the implications of them leave a man thirsty for more? It's softer spoken and a little more intimate, but not like the darkness levels of intimate, and Ivory Tower Soundworks stretch their musical limbs and focus the soundtrack more on fantasy themes rather than atmospheric heavy metal, and it makes me happy. It's dirty, foreboding, almost sickening, it's horrific, and drums pound in your upper torso region like blood in your ears, and there's always something to look at and to question. And for some reason, it reminds me of the backing tracks and synthetics to fucking Honey and Sulphur. I'm not sure why, but hey, we got feet! Yeah! Feet! Mechanically, as far as them horde chopping excursions go, it's pretty simple. You can press the button to attack, but some weapons function kinda goofy, and you're most likely going to want to hold the attack button and just let it auto-swing and control where Myra goes as it does. Makes it easier when the waves of enemies start getting a little too on the hefty side. Which is fine, because parry and dodge will cancel the attack, so you can easily interrupt the swinging when you need to, and get right back into it. You find blueprints for weapons and can build different types with the effects you would expect. Flamberge is good damage, good attack speed. Hammer is slow and hits on smaller arcs, but deals way more damage. Spear is fast and good damage, but attacks in lines that you have to direct, and I've not played with the low damage, but I'm assuming way faster gauntlets yet. Different blueprints have different rarities, and higher rarities give more damage and elemental boosts, but you don't exactly need blueprints of the same kind to make a weapon. As long as you use the same rarity, you can mix blueprints into the forge, and whatever gains the most contribution from the selected blueprints, how many more times will I say it, will determine what weapon is made. It's pretty cool, but right now it's very simple, and I can't really make a real value judgment on it. But aside from your endless chopping, you have heavy attacks, which require you to build up a bar to use. It's not terrible, as just hitting a single enemy builds up the meter pretty good, so you don't have to worry about it. If you're using anything lighter than the hammers, enemies with shields will require heavy attack to break their poise before you can damage them, but otherwise they provide all weapons with a reliable AoE attack, though I will point out that the hammer is heavy auto targets, and it really should allow me to hold the movement stick in a direction so I can direct where Myra swings it. Next come your ults. You slowly build up a meter to unleash them, and Unholy Retribution is a massive AoE that insta-kills anything that isn't a boss. Why would I ever use any of the other four? You start with a special dash focus attack, but Unholy Retribution is a guaranteed kill! If my options are the same mobility as a dodge and some damage on some enemies, or clear the room instantly, or as the third and fourth options go, it doesn't fucking matter what options come after that. Anything placed next to clears horde instantly is fucking worthless. It's OP, there is no reason to use any of the others. Focus attacks, ults, whatever the fuck they're called will either need to be reworked, or Unholy Retribution will need to be reworked into a skill you can unlock on a run, because holy fucking shit, why would you ever pick anything else? It does 999 damage in an AoE to everything. Dodge does what it says on the tin. You have a jump with an attack and some skills to work with it, but what you're left with after that is the parry. The parry has been reworked since the demo, and now instead of just being an OP parry spam option, it now has a pretty hefty cooldown on a fail, requiring you to be more deliberate with the press, and instead of leaving you in place, risking the player missing through no fault of their own, it will now pull Myra to the creature being parried. It's not as easily spammable and punishes pressing too early, but it is worked to not punish the player for a monster accidentally moving in the wrong direction. It's tight and it's solid, and really only the focus attacks need a good hard look at, as Unholy Retribution is just fucking borked. What that leaves us with are the survivor's elements. You know, the random draws for abilities to acquire and boost. There's a lot, and a lot of them are really cool. Fire damage for your weapon, fire AoEs, every few seconds a small area bursts into flames, lightning powers based on parry, jump attacks, and dodging, basic stat upgrades, spectral tools surrounding you and attacking enemies on your behalf, etc. There's a lot, and there's a lot of really fun and unique builds you can make, but a lot of them you won't unlock until incredibly late in the available content, and you can level up so easily and so fast that pretty much every run I did after the first 3 ended up mostly the same. I was getting everything. All lightning, all fire, all tools, all holy, all the kills heal, etc. Some of the abilities only enter the pool after a set has been maxed out, but the only way you're going to get them with acquiring them being meaningful is if you reject every other ability with the intent of getting them, and at that point you're just choosing to kill less so you can equip an ability that doesn't really improve your build. For instance, if you focus down the fire path at the end, you'll get an ability added to the pool that adds 20 fire damage to your ult attacks. It's not really worth spending rerolls and banishes to get when by the same time I unlock that, I have the ability to just stand there menacingly and win. My last run, at least at the time of writing, I focused on spectral tools, and the run was fun and thematic, and it feels like taking upgrades of one type makes others in that vein more likely to show up, but it's far quicker and easier to just make a Doomsday, I do nothing yet win anyway build. Maybe consider some ideas where weapons and buffs chosen increase or decrease likelihoods for the run. Having said that, I run myself into a couple complications. I'm not really a survivor genre kind of guy. I own very few, and the other ones I've put a lot of time into are a boomer shooter and a Matt Hoffman style game. I'm here more for the action, and most suggestions and ideas I could ever put out would push it closer to Dynasty Warriors / Gauntlet. I'm not versed enough in the genre to really say what would help improve it, so I kind of have to just not. Yes, it is incredibly easy to just make a run where everything is exploding. Yes, it takes more effort to make a more thematic build, but maybe that's the point, or maybe they already have ideas that they're going to implement to tailor runs harder. Like I said earlier, Myra's moving eyes and textured teeth already hint at things that are either going to expand in the future or are leftovers from earlier ideas that have been scrapped. So there's not much of a way for me to know what directions they're currently looking into building the game or working on balancing. I only have what I have now, and can only make assumptions that will probably be wrong by what is hinted at in what we do have. But all that is to say that it's a hack and slash title where I'm a walking apocalypse of unholy fire, brimstone, and farm equipment, and that's enough for me for where it's at and where it seems to be going. It will be interesting to see what other people who actually focus on the genre have to say for the mechanics, but it is a group of suggestions I will have to leave for them. Sorry. All in all, Hordes of Hunger is in a really cool place right now, and its trajectory seems dope as fuck. Absolutely fantastic world building, a story that's hinting at some dark shit, great atmospheric design, and hack and slash horde slaughter gameplay that just meshes incredibly well with the Survivor style of gameplay. Very few things will get more satisfying than parrying some asshole, only for all those other assholes to explode. I'm excited to see where it goes, expands, and changes, and I think even if the Survivors genre isn't your thing, this will still hit some good notes if you like the horde slaughter style games and are looking for something you can flip on, do a quick 25 to 30 minute run on, and then move on with your day. Its introductory cost is $15 for early access, but I'm not comfortable making a judgment on the price point. I'm just not versed in the survivor genre side of the game to really say, but for my dollar, I've gotten my money's worth and will still have a lot more to get out of it for what I put in. I'm the TheNecroswanson, and you can go fuck yourselves.